Oh, hey, welcome to another edition of Socrates Explains Everything. My name is Socrates, and I like to explain things. Today I want to talk about inflation. Why is inflation going crazy right now? You know, I'm no fan of capitalism, and there's lots and lots of reasons, but one of them is the way this concept of success equals failure in capitalism. Growth stimulates inflation, and inflation destroys the economy. So growth destroys the economy, and it's sort of a backwards paradox, or at least not a paradox. It's what the mathematics would create. 70% of the economy is consumer spending, and when the consumers get a little more money, and that's you and me, the people, they then spend it because at this point, they don't have any money to spend beyond their bills. And so if they get a few extra dollars, they're going to spend it on something, a luxury, a vacation, something they need. Maybe they'll take a trip somewhere, and that stimulates the economy more than it normally would, and that causes excess growth, which then stimulates inflation. And then that extra money that people had disappears as inflation eats its value away. If you make it a 3% raise and then inflation goes up 5%, you made a 2% loss. You didn't gain anything. If inflation stays at 2% and the economy grows at 2%, well, in theory you're staying even, assuming your wages are growing at 2%. But real-term wages have been decimated in the last decades, since the 80s essentially. Basically, computers gave corporations and the biggest amongst us a lot of power to be finger quote efficient. And in doing so, it's good. I mean, it made businesses more efficient, but they also lost the need for people. And without the need to pay money, businesses won't. Businesses and corporations increase their wages because they have to. They don't do it because they want to. They only do that for themselves, the upper management, because they're the ones voting on what people should be paid. What do you think? The workers, as little as possible. You and me, as much as possible. It's a system. I don't think it's a good one, but it is a system. The idea, one of the claims of capitalism is competition, makes it all work out, that all these uneven patches are flattened out, through competition. Right now we have all this inflation, but if you look carefully at the earnings statements, which are publicly released, they have to give out their earnings statements. And the thing is, they're boring and mathematical, and people don't like boring mathematical things. They don't look. But in those earnings statements, you'll see that the corporations are making absolutely record profits. And in fact, their record profits are built on record profits again and again recently. They've been making endless record profits. And at the same time, they're raising their prices more than ever before as well. And you would think that under competition, well, you can't raise your prices because then somebody else will compete. But when you're working with monopolies or duopolies or cooperating monopolies, whatever you want to call this corrupt system we have, you raise your rates, I raise my rates, and we all basically make more money because there is no actual competition. So inflation today is partially because of Corona, the lockdown, the expansion, and supply and demand. But it's like a train going downhill. A lot of this is just simple greed, corporate greed. They can increase prices because they're working in lockstep. So there's market forces, and then there's corporate, monopoly forces. So I think that the inflation is mostly being caused because they like to charge as much as they can and pay as little as they can to us. And it's a crappy system. Anyway, I'm not a pro-capitalist. Nice day then.